In recognition of your profound influence on our community and the lives of our members, we present to you a symbol of our appreciation, a beautiful challah board and knife, and a personalized challah cover. It is our hope that this gift will serve as a constant reminder of the deep gratitude that we have for you. Your leadership and dedication have made the Shard Synagogue a place of comfort, solace, and growth. May you, Sorel, and your beautiful children be blessed with the best of health, happy times always, continued success, and so much love. We now invite our honorees, Rabbi Rosenblatt and Sorel, to address us.
I prepared some things to say, but at the moment I'm just off script because, I wasn't really prepared for tonight. Sorel can vouch for the fact that, I said, this is not a big deal. Emotionally, that's not the experience I've had at all. I look around the room, I know everyone in this room. I know our relationships. I know my first bar mitzvahs in this room. I can date my 20 years to the bris that happened the week that I got here. And, I look around this room, there are stories with everyone in both rooms. And so it is a very overwhelming thing to have that kind of experience. I was not really at all prepared for it. And so this isn't my best presentation, you'll forgive me. But here goes. We arrived here 7,260 days ago exactly. On that day, we didn't have a stick of furniture of our own in Vancouver. We didn't have a car, didn't even have a bicycle. We didn't even have a single pot that was our own. We arrived, I think, at 2 a.m. on the Cathay Pacific, Alav Shalom flight. And I dutifully, it was on East Coast time, I got up, went to Minyan the first morning. I came back. It was a police cruiser and a SWAT team parked at the front of our house. This is not a joke. This is true, 100%. I come into the house, I said, Sorel, I think we forgot to declare something. That also is not a joke. I have this sort of issue with the border. Not that they have, I just have psychological issues. Always wanting to declare, it makes me very nervous. Yeah, exactly. So I'm Jewish, Jonathan said. The SWAT team was there because my neighbor had an issue with, as my father, Alav HaShalom, used to say, selling unlicensed pharmaceuticals. But continuing the story, Sorel was pregnant. We weren't yet on MSP. Rachel barely walked. She didn't speak. And the other three didn't have a friend in the city. There are things that I didn't know about Canada when I moved here. Like, who was the Prime Minister? What's a toque? Who was Bobby Orr? And you hired a 32-year-old rabbi who was really inexperienced. I would say I knew very little. But you were all very patient with me. And I thank you. A special thank you has to go to my mom, my father as well, Alav Shalom, to my in-laws, who I don't know if they're on FaceTime, but they'll get the video. We took your grandchildren 2,600 miles away from you. And that was it was a big journey. We came to a place where we had no high school friends, we had no camp friends, we just didn't have any organic connections here. And we would not be here if Sorel did not have a very powerful intuition that this was the right place. She just had that sense. And I have to tell you, I don't know if you know this, Sorel is obviously much more private than I am. She has, if Jonathan has this ability to see into people because he's got all this fancy technology, MRI, CT scan, heart flow. Sorel has, and this is what made me fall in love with her, this uncanny ability to understand people. She is piercing that way. Occasionally, some of you know this, if I am out of my depth in counseling someone, you know you're a hard case when Sorel's sitting next to me. It's true. She is that, and she has been that for me in so many ways. And she knew that this was the right place. She saw some people here, the people who helped recruit us here, and she said, "This is it, Andy, this is the place." And she hasn't looked back, and she hasn't second-guessed. And this night, my name has been mentioned far too much for any sense of comfort. But it's what I need you to understand is that, this is I am an employee of the synagogue. That, most employees don't get a 20-year anniversary dinner that is anything like this on any level, emotionally, structurally, in any sense. It's not me, it's us. It is absolutely 100% not me, it is us. So many of you have given to us in so many ways. The doctors who nursed our children back to health when they were vomiting uncontrollably while we were out away at a conference. I am, by the way, purposefully not mentioning anybody's names because there's a reason for this. The moment I mention one name, I have unmentioned every other name. And there is not a name in this room and beyond that's not important. And so, if you know you're mentioned, smile. Know that you're part of the story. If you're not mentioned, smile. You're also part of the story. There are those of you who've given me wise counsel, and those of you who've given me constructive criticism, and they have both been very important. There are people here who have given us personal support in so many different ways. They're not countable. They're not quantifiable. They are personal. They're not professional. They're personal support. And you know who you are, and we thank you, and there are so many of you, and we really appreciate it. For those of you who were patient with a young rabbi, who made many mistakes. And one of the things I'm most grateful for in this community, I don't know who they've been talking about all this time, like this person who's endlessly kind and for everybody, and walks on water and is brilliant and all that stuff. I am normal, I am human, and believe it or not, I've had arguments and fights and disagreements and conflict with people in this community. And you came tonight, and you're here in this room, and we figured out ways to get past those differences because we knew that there's something about being together that is more important than whatever argument we were having or whatever difference. And some of those things were real and true and painful, and some of them were my mistakes, and I had a hand in it. But I appreciate the constancy of that relationship. I want to say that I also appreciate the people who have given hours upon hours for this evening and for fundraising the shul this evening and the 7,260 days leading into this evening. There are those of you who have been our supporters, large and small. There are also so many members of the staff, people I've worked with. Each and every one of you have really been treasures to work with. And we too have had our fights and arguments and difficult moments, and I really appreciate all of that. I want to share one brief Dvar Torah. There's a rabbi who's known best for being the voice of the spirituality in the Talmud. He spent 13 years in a cave. Famously, the Romans were in persecution. He was in a cave. There was a carob tree that magically grew. And he studied Torah for 13 years with his son, eating the fruit of a carob tree. Their clothes were worn out, so they buried themselves in the sand so they could cover their nakedness in order to study Torah. And he's a man, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, is known for his extreme spirituality. He is the voice of the Zohar, the great mystic text. And he teaches something that has become, for me, one of the most animating pieces of Torah I know. He quotes a verse which is hard for even me to remember. The verse is, Habona b'shamayim maliotav v'agudotav al eretz yisada. God builds his lofty chambers up in heaven, but they're bundled in an earthly foundation. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, what is this? He says, you take two boats, and you put them in the middle of the ocean. And you put each one to an anchor. And then you build a home on top of the boats. He says, that's what it is. That's God coming to this world. We are just two boats moored in the middle of an ocean. The moment one of the boats sails away, God's palace falls into the ocean. The foundation is the two boats tied together. That's what it is. It is the two boats. If you want to, the person who is most known for secluded spirituality in the world says, you really want to find God, you want to bring God into this world, you want to live spiritually, you've got to find somebody else. Maybe 9 other people. Maybe 450, 480 other families. You've got to tie your boats together. This community, the synagogue, is what it is. The spirituality in the room, of the place, the value proposition, is because we choose to tie those boats together. You want to find God in this world, you're going to have to find it in the person sitting next to you in shul. And we're celebrating 115 years. But I will tell you, the challenges that are facing us now are greater than they have ever been. Before I was born, maybe 20 years before I was born, the cracks in the foundation of Jewish community was sewed. It came in a black and white set, and it had, Milton Berle and Johnny Carson, and then it had Seinfeld, and then that was nothing compared to Instagram and TikTok. And the world is filled with lots of wonderful, exciting things that are taking us away from each other, that are beacons that are taking those boats and asking them to diverge and go in different directions. And I can tell you to the depths of my soul, the thing that we all need most, and the thing that our children need more than anything else in this world, is a place where they can have real relationships, where they can see the face of God in the uniqueness of the person who sits next to them. A place where they can say, this is where I tie my boat. A place where they can latch on to the roots and the ark that Rabbi Berman spoke about. This community in particular faces a staggering challenge in that area. Because as the Bank of Canada recently taught us, that even if you make $322,245, I have no idea how they come up with that number, but that's the number they came up with. if you're making $2,045 annually, it will take you 454 months, or nearly 38 years, to save for the required down payment with a savings rate of 10%. So that means those of you who are 28 today will be able to move into the neighborhood at 66. Look, maybe we'll all become renters. There's nothing wrong with that. That can work. But this is something this is a challenge which faces us. And so we've been here 20 years, and there's something special about 20 years. There's something special about the depths of the relationship. There's something special about what we can all create, and what we have forged, and the strength and the resources of this community, and the value of all the relationships. But there's a danger in a synagogue that's 115 years old, and a rabbi that's been here for 20 years, and that is that we might become complacent. We might say, take a victory lap, enjoy. And we deserve it. We have worked hard to get here. The generosity that Jonathan and Jeffrey put together, I'm floored by the generosity. And we should take a victory lap. But at the same time, the strength, the beauty, the energy, the kindness, the caring, the deep psychological stability that is being part of this community is something that we will have to work to maintain, something that we will have to invest in, that we will have to work against all of those challenges. And I believe that we can do that because I know that we are willing to keep our boats tied together. That we're going to build that palace because we tie those boats together. But we need a couple of jet skis to be tied along with it. And maybe a little sailboat or two, maybe a houseboat. And we would take some of those funny sort of jalopy boats too. And maybe, some luxury liners. We'll take those too. But our boats, if they are not tied together, I hope you're feeling in this room what I am, because if this is a drug, I want more. And it's not because people said things about me. And that I could live without. But the hugs and the relationships and being able to see people and appreciate people who have been part of your life for 20 years. And I'm just going to end by saying one last thing. I could not do any of this without Sorrel. I could not be any of this. I watched everybody laugh when she said, "Honey, maybe you should get a different profession." I remember that conversation. But Sorrel is the strength that helps me see through the fog and sees the value. And she's not speaking tonight because our usual role is I do shul speaking. If you're really lucky, you'll come to one of her lectures when she speaks about Torah and the brain, and you get to see what really animates her. But for me, I feel very, very fortunate to have somebody who provides that clarity for me. And I will just finish. I know I'm probably going on far too long, and I apologize for that. But I want to just end where I began. Literally every single one of you. And I'm trying to look around the room and see as many faces as I possibly can. Because every single face that I look at is a memory, is an experience, is a building together, is a partnership, is a boat that I'm happy to be tied to. And I hope that you keep your boats tied to me, and that together we can make this a place where Hashem feels comfortable setting down his palace, because we choose to be tied together.